On our way back, my 9-year-old grandson suddenly grabbed my hand. "Grandpa, into the bathroom, fast." He shut the door, locked it, and pressed his back against it like someone was chasing us. "What happened?" I whispered. He leaned in, barely breathing. "Quiet. Check under the door." I knelt, looked, and what I saw made my heart stop. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? 2 pairs of shoes. Ryan's polished Oxfords, and another man's I didn't recognize, standing just outside the bathroom door in the hallway. Not moving, just waiting, listening. Oliver put his finger to his lips. His eyes were wide, scared in a way that children shouldn't be scared in their own home. His small hand was trembling in mine, and I could feel his pulse racing through his fingertips. The bathroom smelled like lavender soap and fear. We stayed there, frozen, for what felt like an hour but was probably 3 minutes. I counted the seconds in my head, the way I used to count during X-ray exposures. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. 180 Mississippis of pure, crystallized dread. The shoes finally moved away. Voices faded down the hall toward Ryan's office. Deep voices, one of them Ryan's practiced, confident tone, the other unfamiliar and somehow harder, sharper. "Grandpa," Oliver whispered, his breath warm against my ear, "I heard them talking about you, about the house. Dad said, he said you're getting confused, that you can't take care of yourself anymore." I'm 62 years old. I had a mild stroke 2 years ago that left me with a slight limp and nothing else. My mind is sharper than it's ever been. 35 years of reading X-rays teaches you to see what others miss. The hairline fractures, the micro damage, the structural failures hiding in plain sight. Every day for 3.5 decades, I stared at images of broken things and learned to see patterns that other people missed. "What else did you hear?" Oliver's voice dropped even lower. "Something about papers, and a doctor who would say you're incompetent? Is that bad?" "Yes, Oliver. That's very bad." I stood up slowly, my knee protesting with that familiar ache that had been with me since the stroke. The physical therapy had helped, but some damage never fully heals. You just learn to work around it. "Listen to me. You did exactly right by telling me this, but now we're going to go out there, and you're going to act like nothing happened. Can you do that?" He nodded, but his hand was shaking when he unlocked the door. I put my hand on his shoulder, felt the fragile bones beneath his shirt. So young, so innocent, and already caught in the middle of something he shouldn't have to understand. We walked back to the living room where my son, my only child, the boy I raised alone after Claire passed, was sitting on the couch with a manila folder open on his lap. He looked up and smiled. That smile I'd seen 1,000 times. The one that used to mean, "Dad, I need help," but now meant something else entirely. Something calculating, something cold. "Everything okay, Dad?" "Just fine," I said. My voice was steady, professional. The same voice I used when explaining to a patient that, yes, that shadow on the scan was exactly what they feared. The voice that said, "I'm in control," even when the world was falling apart. Ryan's laptop was open on the coffee table. I could see part of an email. "Evaluation scheduled for next week. Medical assessment. Power of attorney transfer." The words swam in front of my eyes for a moment, but I didn't let my expression change. In radiology, you learn to control your reactions. You see terrible things on those screens, tumors, fractures, internal bleeding, and you have to stay calm. You have to think clearly. Panic helps no one. "Oliver, why don't you go watch TV in the den?" Ryan said, his voice smooth as silk. Oliver looked at me. I nodded. He left, reluctant, glancing back over his shoulder with those worried eyes. Ryan closed the folder. "Dad, I've been meaning to talk to you about the house, About arrangements. Arrangements. You're not getting any younger. The stroke, the limp. I worry about you living here alone. What if you fall? What if something happens? I'd heard this speech before, variations of it over the past few months. Each time a little more insistent. Each time with a little more emphasis on my supposed fragility. Each time Ryan would mention the stairs, the isolation, the difficulty of maintaining a house this size at my age. I'm fine, Ryan. But what if you're not? What if you can't see it? Dad, sometimes people don't realize when they need help. It's a natural part of aging. Nothing to be ashamed of. Bones don't lie. Neither do betrayals. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. The expensive watch he couldn't actually afford, a Rolex that probably cost more than 3 months of whatever income he was actually bringing in. The suit that screamed success to hide the debt underneath, tailored perfectly to project an image of wealth and stability. Ryan had always been good at surfaces, good at making people believe the image instead of seeing the cracks. I'd paid for his business degree at a private university, $40,000 a year for 4 years. Bailed him out when his first real estate venture collapsed. Another $60,000 disappeared into a failed strip mall renovation. Co-signed loans I shouldn't have, my name on documents for properties I'd never seen. Given him seed money for investments that never quite panned out the way he promised. And now he wanted the house. My house. The one Claire and I bought together 34 years ago. The one where we raised him, where she taught him to ride a bike in the driveway, where we celebrated every birthday and Christmas and graduation. The one where she took her last breath in the bedroom upstairs, her hand in mine, her voice barely a whisper. Take care of him, Will. He needs you. He wanted me declared incompetent so he could take it all. I'll think about it, I said. Ryan's face shifted, just for a second. Frustration flickered across his features like a shadow. Impatience tightened the corners of his mouth. Then the smile returned, practiced and perfect. That's all I ask, Dad. Just think about it. We can talk more this weekend. Maybe we can all sit down together, you, me, Lisa, figure out what's best for everyone. I nodded and said nothing. In radiology, silence is a tool. You stay quiet and let the images reveal their secrets. You don't rush. You don't assume. You wait and watch and see what emerges from the shadows. I went home that night, to the guest house Ryan had insisted I move into 6 months ago, just until we figure things out. And I didn't sleep. The guest house was small, cramped, a converted garage with thin walls and a kitchenette that barely functioned. It smelled like fresh paint and broken promises. I sat in the dark and thought about fractures. There are 2 kinds. Acute fractures occur suddenly, because of impact or a major incident. A fall, a car crash, a sudden force that breaks the bone. Then there are stress fractures, small, incremental, invisible until the whole structure fails. The kind that happen over time, with repeated pressure, with constant strain. The kind you don't see until it's too late. Ryan thought I was the one fracturing. He was wrong. I pulled out my laptop and started making notes. Dates, conversations. Strange requests over the past year. The time Ryan asked for my bank information just to help with bill paying. The time he suggested I add him to my accounts in case of emergency. The time he brought over new estate planning documents and asked me to sign them when I had a chance. I hadn't signed them. Something in my gut had said no. Thank God for instinct. By 3 a.m, I had a timeline, a pattern, a clear picture of what my son had been building toward, step by careful step, for at least 18 months. I also had a plan. Because if there's one thing I learned in 35 years of looking at broken bones, it's this. Once you know where the fracture is, you know exactly where to apply pressure to make the whole thing shatter. I started by searching my own house. It took me 3 days to find what I was looking for. 3 days of going through filing cabinets and desk drawers while Ryan was at work and Oliver was at school. I moved carefully, methodically, the way I approached a difficult diagnosis. I photographed everything before touching it, used my phone to document the exact position of papers, the order of files, the way folders were arranged. I put things back exactly as I found them. Precision matters. In radiology, a millimeter can be the difference between a correct diagnosis and a missed tumor. Here, a slightly crooked paper could be the difference between success and discovery. I know how to be patient. I spent 35 years staring at images for hours, looking for the one detail that mattered. The tiny calcification that suggested cancer. The subtle misalignment that indicated a fracture. The shadow that shouldn't be there. I found it in Ryan's office in a folder marked Estate Planning, my signature on a power of attorney document, dated 3 months ago. April 15th, according to the notary stamp. I never signed it. I pulled out my phone and photographed every page, 10 pages total, each one carefully documented. The signature was good. Very good. Ryan must have practiced. He'd probably traced it 100 times, studied the way I formed letters, the pressure I applied, the rhythm of my handwriting. But there was a tell. The way the W in William curved. I'd broken my right wrist in 1998, falling on ice in the hospital parking lot. Shattered the scaphoid bone, required surgery and 3 months of physical therapy. Ever since, that particular letter had a slight hesitation in it, a microscopic hitch where my wrist couldn't quite flow the way it used to. The forged signature was smooth. Perfect. Too perfect. Lawyers might not catch it. Judges might not catch it. Most people wouldn't even think to look for it. But a handwriting expert would. I kept searching. Found more documents. A psychiatric evaluation form, blank, from a Dr. Leonard Moss, a name I didn't recognize. The form had questions about memory, orientation, decision-making capacity. There were notes in the margin in Ryan's handwriting. Confusion dates, repetitive questions, mood changes, a draft letter to my bank requesting to freeze my accounts due to cognitive impairment concerns. The letter was on official-looking letterhead from a law firm I'd never heard of. An email exchange with someone named Mitchell Crane about asset liquidation timeline. The emails discussed the value of my house, underestimated by about $100,000, and talked about quick sale strategies and minimizing estate complications. Ryan wasn't just planning to have me declared incompetent. He'd already started the process. He'd been building a case piece by piece, document by document, like constructing a building designed to collapse at exactly the right moment. I photographed everything, 17 documents total. Then I put them all back exactly as I'd found them. The folder went back in the drawer, positioned at the same angle. The pen on the desk stayed in its spot. The coffee cup ring on the wood remained undisturbed. In the corner of Ryan's desk, I noticed something else. A small notebook, the kind with a leather cover and elastic band. I opened it carefully. Inside were notes. Lots of notes. Dad forgot conversation about doctor appointment. Use as example. Dad called Lisa by wrong name at dinner. Document. Dad asked same question twice. Witnesses present. He'd been cataloging mistakes I hadn't made, building a fictional narrative of decline, creating a history that didn't exist. My hands shook as I photographed the pages, not from fear, from rage. Pure, crystallized rage that I forced down deep because rage doesn't help. Rage makes you sloppy. Rage makes you make mistakes. I needed to be precise. That night, Ryan called me. Hey, Dad, I was thinking, why don't you come to dinner Friday? Lisa's making her pot roast. Lisa, his wife. 34 years old, expensive tastes, highlights that cost $300 every 6 weeks, nails done every 2 weeks, wardrobe from boutiques that didn't list prices on their websites. She'd married Ryan's image of success rather than the reality of his debt. Sure, I said. I'd like that. Great. And Dad? I've been thinking about what we discussed. I made an appointment for you with a doctor. Just a routine checkup. Make sure everything's okay after the stroke. It's been 2 years, but it's good to follow up, you know? What kind of doctor? A specialist. Dr. Moss. He's very good. Works with a lot of seniors. Very compassionate. Very thorough. Friday morning. Before dinner. That way we can discuss the results over pot roast. Dr. Leonard Moss. The same name on the psychiatric evaluation form. Okay, I said. What time? 10 o'clock. I'll pick you up. We'll go together. That way I can talk to the doctor, too. Tell him about the things I've been noticing. The things he'd been inventing. Sounds good, I said. Thanks for setting it up, Ryan. Of course, Dad. That's what family does. We take care of each other. I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. Because now I knew the timeline. Now I knew the plan. The evaluation on Friday morning would reveal cognitive impairment. Ryan would express concern, sadness, reluctant acceptance that his father needed help. The doctor would recommend immediate intervention. Ryan would already have the power of attorney ready, the forged one. He'd take control of my assets, probably by Monday. The house would be listed within a week, sold within a month, and knowing meant I could break it. I pulled out my laptop and started making calls. Not to lawyers, not yet. That would be too obvious, too defensive. Ryan would see it coming. He'd adjust his strategy, find another angle, another weapon. No. I called Andrew Chen, my old colleague from County General, now head of radiology at 3 hospitals in the state. We'd worked together for 15 years. We'd pulled double shifts during the nurses' strike. We'd covered for each other during family emergencies. He owed me favors. I'd covered for him during his messy separation, helped his daughter get into medical school with a strong recommendation letter. Will, it's been too long. How are you? How's retirement treating you? Semi-retirement, I corrected. I'm still consulting part-time. Listen, Andrew, I need information on a doctor. Leonard Moss, psychiatrist. Let me check. Yeah, I know him. Why? Everything okay? Just curious. Someone recommended him for a consultation. There was a pause. I could hear computer keys clicking. Will, if you're looking for a psychiatrist, I can recommend better. Moss is competent, but he's got a reputation. What kind of reputation? Andrew's voice dropped. The kind where, if you pay him enough, his evaluations tend to support whatever outcome you're looking for. Nothing provable. Nothing that would lose him his license. But word gets around, he did an evaluation last year on a woman whose daughter wanted to move her to assisted living. Moss found severe dementia. The woman got a second opinion, completely healthy. Moss claimed she had a good day during the second evaluation. The family sued, but it got settled out of court. Interesting. Will, what's going on? Just doing some research, Andrew. Thanks for the information. If you need anything else, I'll call you, I promise. I hung up and made another call. Then another. By midnight, I had a list of names. Doctors who evaluated patients for competency hearings and had actual reputations worth protecting. Lawyers who specialized in elder law and financial exploitation. Forensic handwriting experts who testified in court. I also had something else. A plan. Step by step. Piece by piece. The way you build a diagnosis from symptoms and scans and lab results. The way you dismantle a lie by exposing every false assumption it's built on. Ryan thought he was 3 steps ahead of me. He was wrong. I was 10 steps ahead. And unlike him, every one of my steps would be legal, documented, and absolutely devastating. Friday morning arrived cold and clear. November in the Midwest, the kind of day where your breath fogs the air and frost glitters on car windshields. Ryan picked me up at 9:30, right on time. He was wearing his trustworthy son outfit, khakis, a sweater vest, a concerned expression. "You look good, Dad," he said as I got in the car. "Feeling okay?" "Never better." We drove to Dr. Moss's office in silence. Ryan kept glancing at me like he was trying to gauge something, reading me, looking for signs of weakness or suspicion. I stared out the window and thought about Claire. She would have seen through Ryan years ago. She had a gift for reading people that I never quite mastered. "Will," she used to say, "you see bones and tissue, I see souls." If she were here, none of this would be happening. But she wasn't here, and I was on my own. Dr. Moss's office was in a medical complex downtown. Expensive, professional. The waiting room had leather chairs and abstract art on the walls, the kind of art that looks expensive but means nothing. A receptionist sat behind a glass partition typing on a computer. "I'll wait here," Ryan said, settling into a chair with his phone. He was already texting someone, probably Lisa, giving her updates. Dad's evaluation is starting. Looking forward to getting him some help. A receptionist called my name. I followed her back to an office where Dr. Leonard Moss sat behind a mahogany desk. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of confident smile that made me immediately distrust him. He had soft hands, manicured nails, and a tie that probably cost more than most people's weekly groceries. "Dr. Hart, please sit down. Your son tells me he's concerned about some memory issues." "Does he?" Moss folded his hands. "This is just a routine evaluation. Nothing to worry about. I'm going to ask you some questions. Have you do a few simple tasks. Standard cognitive assessment. Should take about an hour. Very straightforward. For the next 60 minutes, I answered questions. What year is it? Who's the president? Count backward from 100 by sevens. Remember these 3 words and repeat them back to me later. Draw a clock face showing 3:15. Copy this pattern of interlocking shapes. I got every single one wrong. Not dramatically wrong. Not so wrong that it was obvious I was faking. Just wrong enough. Just the kind of wrong that suggested mild cognitive impairment, confusion, disorientation, the early stages of decline. I said the year was 2021. I called the president by the wrong name. I counted backward by sevens but lost track halfway through. When he asked me to remember those 3 words, apple, table, penny, I said apple, chair, quarter when he asked me to recall them. The clock I drew had numbers in the wrong positions. The pattern I copied was close but slightly off, like my spatial reasoning was failing. The look on Moss's face was perfect. Professional concern, masking satisfaction. This was exactly what Ryan was paying him to find. A patient declining just enough to need intervention, but not so far gone that it would look suspicious. "Dr. Hart," he said carefully, making notes on his tablet, "I think we should schedule some follow-up appointments. Run a few more tests. Get a complete picture of what we're dealing with here. If you think it's necessary." "I do. I'll coordinate with your son. We want to make sure we're giving you the best care possible." I stood up, made a show of steadying myself on the chair. Let my hand shake slightly. "Thank you, doctor." Moss stood and walked me to the door. "We'll take good care of you, Dr. Hart. Don't worry about anything." Ryan was practically vibrating with suppressed excitement when I came out. He stood up quickly, putting his phone away. "How'd it go?" "Fine. He wants to do more tests." "That's good, Dad. That's really good. We'll figure this out together." "Sure we will, Ryan." On the drive home, Ryan was almost chatty. "Dr. Moss seems really knowledgeable. I did a lot of research before choosing him. He's one of the best in the state for geriatric cognitive issues." And Dad, I want you to know, whatever we find out, whatever happens, I'm here for you. You're not going through this alone." I looked out the window at the passing houses, the bare trees, the gray sky. "That's comforting." "I mean it. You're my father. You took care of me my whole life. Now it's my turn to take care of you." The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. At dinner that night, I played my part perfectly. Lisa had made pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. The dining room smelled like home cooking and betrayal. I called Lisa by the wrong name twice. Sarah, could you pass the salt? Sarah, this is delicious. Lisa looked uncomfortable each time. It's Lisa, Will. Oh, right. Sorry, Lisa. I don't know where my head is today. I forgot what we were talking about mid-conversation. Oliver said something about school, and I responded with a completely unrelated comment about the weather. I asked Oliver the same question 3 times. How's school going? Then, 10 minutes later. How's school, buddy? Then again after dessert. Oliver looked sad each time. His eyes kept darting between me and Ryan, trying to understand what was happening. Lisa looked uncomfortable. She kept glancing at Ryan, who gave her subtle nods. See? I told you. It's getting worse. Ryan looked triumphant. He tried to hide it, but I've been reading faces for 35 years. I saw the satisfaction in his eyes, the excitement, the greed. After dinner, Ryan walked me to the car. Dad, I've been thinking, maybe you shouldn't be driving anymore, just until we know what's going on with your memory. For safety. You're probably right. I'll take you anywhere you need to go. Doctor appointments, grocery store, wherever. Just call me. That's very kind of you, son. He put his hand on my shoulder. We're family, Dad. That's what we do. I let him drive me back to the guest house. Let him help me to the door, even though I didn't need help. Let him see exactly what he wanted to see. A confused old man, declining fast, ready to be managed. As soon as he left, I went inside and pulled out my phone. Time to start breaking things. I called a number I'd found earlier in the week. A lawyer named Martin Shepard, who specialized in elder financial exploitation. He'd agreed to meet with me Saturday morning. Then I called a handwriting expert named Dr. Patricia Winters. She'd testified in over 300 court cases. She could see my forged signature on Monday. Then I made one more call. To Jessica Reeves, a reporter I knew from the hospital. She'd covered several healthcare fraud cases. I told her I might have a story for her in a few weeks, about a psychiatrist who was providing fraudulent competency evaluations for profit. She was very interested. By midnight, all my pieces were in position. Ryan thought he'd won tonight, thought he'd sealed the deal, thought his confused, declining father was finally ready to be packed away and processed. He had no idea what was coming. I sat in the dark guest house and smiled, because bones don't lie, and neither do the fractures you create when you know exactly where to apply pressure. I started with the money. Ryan's entire life was built on leverage, other people's money, other people's confidence, other people's assumptions about his success. He had 3 major real estate deals in progress, all of them funded by investors who believed he was solvent. He wasn't. I'd spent the last week reconstructing his financial situation. It wasn't hard. Ryan kept terrible records, and I still had access to the main house. Bank statements, loan documents, investor agreements. He left them lying around like he was untouchable. Saturday morning, while Ryan took Oliver to a soccer game, I let myself into the house. I still had a key. Ryan had never asked for it back, probably because it never occurred to him that I'd use it. I went straight to his office. In the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet, behind folders of old tax returns, I found what I was looking for. A ledger. Handwritten. The real numbers. Ryan owed $340,000 to a group of investors led by a man named Frank Gallo, due in 6 weeks. November 30th. The investment was for a commercial property development that had stalled. The permits hadn't come through. The contractors had walked off the job. The property was sitting empty, accruing debt, worth less every month. Ryan's financial statements claimed the project was on track, just slightly delayed. He'd been sending Gallo quarterly updates showing steady progress. All lies. I photographed every page of the ledger. Then I found the correspondence with Gallo. Emails, letters, financial reports. I photographed all of it. Ryan's plan was simple. Declare me incompetent, take control of my assets, Sell my house for approximately $450,000, pay off Gallo with $340,000, and use the remaining $110,000 to keep his empire of smoke and mirrors intact for another year. By then, he'd figure something else out. Another scheme, another hustle. My plan was simpler. I called Frank Gallo's office and asked for a meeting. His secretary tried to brush me off until I mentioned Ryan's name. Then she got very interested very quickly. Mr. Gallo can see you Monday at 2. Perfect. I spent the rest of the weekend preparing. I printed out every financial document I'd photographed from Ryan's office. I organized them chronologically, highlighted the important sections, created a timeline of lies. The soccer game investment that never happened. The strip mall renovation that took the money and ran. The property flips that were actually property flops. Then I made 3 copies and put them in 3 different safe places. One in a safe deposit box at my bank. One with Martin Shepard, my lawyer. One in a sealed envelope with Andrew Chen at the hospital with instructions to open it if anything happened to me. Because I wasn't naive. I knew that desperate people do desperate things. Monday afternoon, I took a cab to Gallo's office. It was in a renovated warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place that cost more per month than most people's mortgages. Modern furniture, expensive art, a view of the river. Frank Gallo was 60, broad-shouldered, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He did not offer me coffee or small talk. He sat behind a glass desk in a leather chair and looked at me like he was calculating my net worth. You're Ryan Hart's father. I am. And you want to talk about the money he owes me. I do. I slid the folder across his desk. He opened it, read for 5 minutes without speaking. His expression never changed, but his jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in his cheek. His fingers drummed once on the desk, then went still. Does Ryan know you're here? No. Does he know you have this information? No. Gallo closed the folder, leaned back in his chair, studied me with those cold eyes. Dr. Hart, why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand that Ryan won't be able to pay you in 6 weeks. He's planning to use my assets to cover his debt. But that's not going to happen. Why not? Because I'm not incompetent, Mr. Gallo, and I'm not giving him access to anything. Gallo leaned forward. You're his father. I'm aware. And you're sabotaging his ability to pay me back. You understand that puts him in a very difficult position. I understand that he put himself in that position by lying to you about the status of the commercial property development and about his ability to fulfill his financial obligations. Gallo's eyes narrowed. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A confused old man. That's what Ryan told me. He said you'd had a stroke, that you were declining, that he was trying to help manage your affairs before things got worse. Did he? He used your supposed condition as an excuse for why he couldn't provide certain documentation. Said you'd misplaced files, that you were disorganized, that it was hard to get information from you. I pulled out a second folder. Mr. Gallo, I was a trauma radiology doctor for 35 years. I have copies of every document Ryan ever asked me to sign, every financial transaction we ever had together, every loan I co-signed, every penny I ever gave him. I am not disorganized. I am not confused. And I have documentation proving that Ryan has been systematically lying to you for the past 18 months. I slid the second folder across the desk. Gallo opened it. This one contained bank statements, canceled checks, loan documents. Proof that Ryan's claimed assets didn't exist. Proof that the commercial property was worth half what he'd told investors. Proof that the permits he claimed were any day now had been denied 3 times. Gallo read for a long time. When he finally looked up, his face was stone. Dr. Hart, why are you doing this? Because Ryan tried to have me declared mentally incompetent so he could steal my house and liquidate my assets, and I don't appreciate that. So this is revenge. This is consequences. There's a difference. Gallo studied me. What do you want from me? I want you to call in the debt now, not in 6 weeks, now. He can't pay me now. I know. Another long silence. Then Gallo smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who'd just spotted wounded prey. Dr. Hart, I'm starting to like you. I'm a radiology doctor, Mr. Gallo. I specialize in finding fractures, and your money is currently sitting in a structure that's about to collapse. I'm just giving you advance notice. How do I know you're not lying? How do I know this isn't some family drama, some manipulation to hurt your son? I pulled out a third folder. Because I brought proof. Bank statements showing Ryan's actual account balances. Canceled checks showing where the money actually went. Loan documents with signatures that don't match the ones on file with your company. Everything you need to verify that Ryan Hart is insolvent and has been lying about his assets for the past 18 months. Gallo took the folder. Read it carefully. Picked up his phone. Jerry, pull everything we have on Ryan Hart. I want a full financial audit by tomorrow morning. And get Thompson in here. I need legal on this immediately. He hung up and looked at me. If you're right, Ryan Hart's life is going to get very complicated very quickly. I'm right. And you're okay with that. You're okay with destroying your son. Mr. Gallo, my son forged my signature on legal documents. He paid a psychiatrist to falsify a cognitive evaluation. He was planning to have me declared legally incompetent, seize my home, liquidate my life savings, and use the money to pay off debts he incurred through lies and mismanagement. I'm not destroying him. I'm just refusing to be his victim. Gallo stood up and extended his hand. It's been a pleasure, Dr. Hart. I shook it. His grip was firm. The feeling is mutual. One more thing, Gallo said. How did you know to come to me? Why not just protect yourself and walk away? Because Ryan needs to understand that actions have consequences, and because I wanted to make sure that when his house of cards falls down, it falls completely. No rebuilding, no second chances, no using someone else to climb back up. Gallo smiled again. You're a cold man, Dr. Hart. I'm a realistic man. There's a difference. I took a cab home and waited. It didn't take long. Ryan called me at 7 that evening. His voice was tight, strained. Dad, did you go anywhere today? Just the grocery store. Why? Nothing. Never mind. But I could hear it, the edge of panic, the crack in the confident facade. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know what. Not yet. The next morning, Ryan got a letter from Gallo's legal team. I knew because Oliver called me, his voice small and scared. Grandpa, Dad's yelling. He keeps saying something's wrong with the money. Mom's crying. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Oliver. Your dad is just stressed about work. He broke a glass. He threw it at the wall. My stomach tightened. Is anyone hurt? No, but it scared me. I'll come over. I called a cab and was there in 15 minutes. The house was quiet when I arrived, but the kind of quiet that comes after screaming. The air felt heavy. Lisa met me in the hallway, pale. Her eyes were red. Will, I don't know what's going on. He got some letter this morning and he's been like this ever since. He won't talk to me. He just keeps making phone calls and yelling. Where's Oliver? In his room, with his headphones on. I went upstairs and found my grandson sitting on his bed, knees pulled up to his chest, headphones clamped over his ears. He was staring at nothing. I knocked on the doorframe. He looked up, saw me, and pulled off the headphones. Hey, buddy. Grandpa. He scrambled off the bed and hugged me. Hard, like I was the only solid thing in a world that had suddenly gone liquid. Are you okay? He nodded against my chest. Is Dad in trouble? Maybe, but it's not your problem. Are you in trouble? I tilted his chin up, looked him in the eyes. No, Oliver. I'm not in trouble. Promise? I promise. He hugged me again. I don't like when Dad yells. I know. He never used to yell. Not like this. People change when they're stressed. Are you stressed, Grandpa? No, I said. And it was true. I felt calm, clear, focused. The way I used to feel in the hospital when everything was chaos around me, but I had a job to do. I'm okay. Downstairs, Ryan's office door slammed open. I heard him come into the hallway. Dad, are you here? I headed back downstairs. Ryan looked like he hadn't slept at all. His shirt was creased, his tie undone, and his eyes were red from exhaustion. Shattered glass lay on the floor near the wall. Dad, I need to talk to you in private. We went into his office. He closed the door. Did you talk to Frank Gallo? I met his eyes. Yes. The color drained from his face. Why? Why would you do that? Because you were planning to steal my house to pay him. I wasn't stealing, Dad. I was trying to help both of us. You can't manage your finances anymore. The evaluation proved it. The evaluation you paid Dr. Moss to fabricate? Ryan's mouth opened, closed, his hands clenched at his sides. What are you talking about? I know about the forged power of attorney, Ryan. I know about the staged evaluation. I know about all of it. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're confused. Dr. Moss said what you paid him to say. But I'm not confused. I never was. That's not... You failed the tests. I was there. I failed them on purpose. The realization hit him in stages. First confusion, then understanding, then something like fear. His face went from pale to flushed. You set me up. No, Ryan. I just stopped pretending I didn't see what you were doing. He sat down hard in his chair. Gallo's calling in the debt. Full payment in 30 days or he takes everything. The properties, the business, all of it. I can't pay him without my house. Dad, please. His voice cracked. I'm your son. I made a mistake, okay? I was desperate. But if you help me now, if you just give me access to the equity, I can fix this. I can pay Gallo and get everything back on track. No. Dad. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You forged my signature. You were going to take everything Claire and I built and use it to cover your bad decisions. And you want me to help you? It's not like that. I was going to take care of you. You'd have lived in the house. I just needed the equity. Get out. What? Get out of your chair. This is my house. I'm still on the deed. I never signed it over to you, no matter what papers you tried to forge. So get out. Ryan stood up slowly. His hands were shaking. You're really going to do this. You're going to let me lose everything. Yes. I'm your son. I know, I said. That's the worst part. That's what makes this hurt. Not that someone tried to destroy me, but that it was you. Ryan's face twisted. I don't understand. What happened to you? You used to care. I used to be useful. That's different from caring. You loved me when I was useful. When I could bail you out, co-sign loans, give you money. But the moment you thought I was vulnerable, you tried to take everything. That's not love, Ryan. That's calculation. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. I learned that when your mother took her last breath and I had to raise you alone. I learned it when I worked double shifts to pay for your education. I learned it every time I sacrificed something I wanted so you could have something you needed. And you know what? I never asked for fairness. I asked for basic human decency. And you couldn't even give me that. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. What now? Now you figure out how to pay Frank Gallo without using my money. Good luck with that. I turned and walked out of his office. Lisa was standing in the hallway, crying quietly. Will, I didn't know. About the papers. About any of it. I believe you. He told me you were declining, that you needed help. I believed him. Most people would have. What's going to happen to us? I don't know, Lisa. That's between you and Ryan. I went upstairs to say goodbye to Oliver. He was still on his bed, still looking scared. "I have to go, buddy, but you can call me any time, day or night, okay?" "Okay." "And Oliver, this isn't your fault, none of it." He nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Kids always think it's their fault. I took a cab back to the guest house, sat in the dark, thought about what came next. Because this was just the beginning. Ryan would panic. He'd scramble. He'd try to find money somewhere, anywhere. He'd make mistakes. And when he did, I'd be watching. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Ryan's world collapse in real time. Gallo's audit revealed everything. The underwater properties, the unpaid debts, the fictional assets. The commercial property development that was supposed to be days from breaking ground was actually stuck in permit limbo with no resolution in sight. The strip mall renovation that Ryan claimed was 90% complete was actually abandoned, with liens from 3 different contractors. More investors came forward. People Ryan had promised returns to, people he'd shown doctored financial statements, people who'd trusted him because he drove a nice car and wore expensive suits. Lawyers got involved, multiple lawyers. Each investor had their own legal team, and they all wanted their money back. Ryan tried calling me 17 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. First, angry. "Dad, you did this. You destroyed me. I hope you're happy." Then, desperate. "Dad, please, just talk to me. We can fix this." Then, broken. "I don't know what to do. Please." I deleted them all without listening to the end. Lisa called once. "Will, please. Whatever happened between you and Ryan, he's still your son. He's still Oliver's father. If he loses everything, then Oliver will learn an important lesson about consequences. How can you be so cold?" "Lisa, did Ryan tell you what he was planning to do to me?" Silence. "Ask him. Then call me back if you still think I'm cold." She never called back. I spent my time doing 2 things, protecting my assets and gathering evidence. The evidence part was methodical. I'd photographed everything, but now I needed it verified, documented, made official. I hired a handwriting expert, Dr. Patricia Winters, who testified in over 300 court cases. She spent 2 hours examining the forged power of attorney, comparing it to my genuine signatures on other documents. Her report was 20 pages long and concluded with 98% certainty that the signature was forged. I got Andrew Chen to provide a formal statement about Dr. Moss's reputation. Andrew was reluctant at first. Doctors don't like testifying against other doctors. But when I explained what Moss had been willing to do, he agreed. His statement detailed 3 other cases where Moss had provided questionable evaluations that aligned suspiciously well with the family member who'd hired him. I documented every conversation, every phone call, every attempt Ryan made to access my accounts. I got statements from my bank showing that Ryan had tried to use the forged power of attorney to transfer funds. The bank had caught it, flagged it as suspicious because I'd already contacted them and put alerts on my account. The protection part was easier. I moved my money into a trust that Ryan couldn't touch even if he somehow got a court order. The trust was ironclad, drafted by Martin Shepard, with me as the sole beneficiary and 3 independent trustees who couldn't be influenced or manipulated. I updated my will, cut Ryan out completely, left everything to Oliver in a trust he'd access at 25. Until then, the trustees would manage it, pay for his education, provide for his needs. I filed a restraining order preventing Ryan from making medical decisions on my behalf. Filed an affidavit with the court explaining the attempted fraud. Got a judge to sign off on it. I also did something else. I called Jessica Reeves, the reporter I knew from the hospital, a woman who'd covered healthcare fraud, elder financial abuse, medical malpractice. She'd won awards for her investigative journalism. "Jessica, it's Will Hart. I told you I might have a story for you." "I remember. What have you got?" "A psychiatrist who's providing fraudulent competency evaluations for profit. I have documentation, expert analysis, and I'm willing to go on record." She was very interested. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I brought copies of everything: the forged power of attorney, the handwriting analysis, Dr. Moss's evaluation forms, Andrew Chen's statement about Moss's reputation. Jessica read through it all, making notes, asking questions. This is significant. How many other cases do you think there are? I don't know. But if he did it to me, he's done it to others. Will, if I write this story, it's going to get attention. Your name will be in it. Your son's name will be in it. Are you prepared for that? Yes. Why? Why not just protect yourself and move on? I thought about that. Thought about Claire, about Oliver, about all the other confused, vulnerable people who might fall victim to someone like Moss. Because it's the right thing to do, and because someone has to. 3 weeks after my meeting with Gallo, the story broke. Front page of the local paper, then picked up regionally. Psychiatrist under investigation for elder abuse scheme. Doctor. Leonard Moss's practice imploded overnight. Patients canceled appointments. The medical board opened an investigation. 3 other families came forward with similar stories. Ryan's name wasn't in the article. Jessica had agreed to keep it out in exchange for exclusive access to my documentation and the promise of a follow-up story if more evidence emerged. But everyone in Ryan's world read that paper. Everyone knew he'd been trying to have his father declared incompetent. Everyone could do the math. The business deals that were barely holding together fell apart completely. Partners backed out, not wanting to be associated with someone involved in an elder abuse scandal. Investors ran, afraid their money would get caught up in legal proceedings. Banks called in loans, seeing Ryan as a liability. Ryan lost the properties to foreclosure, lost the business, lost everything except the house, my house, the one he'd been living in, the one I'd never actually transferred to him despite what he thought. And then I took that too. I filed an eviction notice on a Tuesday morning. The paperwork was simple, clear, legally airtight. Ryan Hart, current resident of 1847 Maple Street, was being evicted by the property owner, William Hart, for non-payment of rent and violation of verbal tenancy agreement. Martin Shepard filed it with the court. Are you sure about this, Will? Yes. He's your son. He has a family. Where will they go? That's not my concern anymore. Martin studied me. What happened to you? You used to talk about him all the time. How proud you were of him. That was before I found out who he really was. The eviction notice was served by a sheriff's deputy at 3 in the afternoon. Ryan called me within an hour. You can't do this. I can. I own the house. You're living there without a lease or rental agreement. That makes you a tenant at will. I'm terminating that arrangement. You have 30 days. Dad, please. We have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. I have a family. Lisa, Oliver. Oliver is welcome to stay with me anytime he wants. You're really going to put your grandson on the street? No, Ryan. You did that. When you decided to commit fraud instead of asking for help. When you chose lies over honesty. When you forged my signature and tried to steal my life. You did this. I'm just declining to fix it for you. Ryan's voice cracked. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I panicked. But please, please don't do this. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. That's not true. If I hadn't figured it out, if I hadn't stopped you, where would I be right now, Ryan? In some care facility, declared incompetent, stripped of my autonomy and my assets while you sold my house and spent my money? Silence. That's what I thought. Dad. I hung up. He showed up at my door that night. I watched him through the window, the guest house window in the home on his property, the bitter irony of it. He stood on the porch, and I stood in the doorway, and we looked at each other through the screen. What do you want from me? He asked. His voice was hoarse. His eyes were red. He looked 10 years older than he had a month ago. An apology? You want me to beg? I don't want anything from you. Then why? Why are you doing this? Because you tried to erase me. You looked at me and saw an asset to liquidate. You were willing to have me declared mentally incompetent, to destroy my reputation, to take everything I had, and you thought I wouldn't notice because you assumed I actually was losing my mind. I was desperate. You were greedy. There's a difference. If you'd been desperate, you would have asked for help. You would have told me the truth, but you didn't want help. You wanted control. You wanted my money without having to admit you'd failed. I'm your son. You keep saying that like it means something, like it's supposed to override everything else. But being my son doesn't give you the right to destroy me. It doesn't give you immunity from consequences. Ryan's face crumpled. For a moment, he looked like the boy I'd raised. The one who used to call me from college, homesick. The one who cried at his mother's funeral and held my hand during the burial. The one who told me I was his hero. Then the moment passed. You'll regret this, he said, his voice hardening. When you're alone, when there's no one left, when you're elderly and slipping away in a hospital with no family nearby, you'll remember you had a son who needed you, and you turned your back. I had a son, I said. Then he tried to steal my life. Now I just have a problem I'm solving. You're a cold man. I'm a realistic man, and I'm done being your fallback plan. I closed the door, locked it, turned off the light and sat in the dark, listening to him stand there for another 5 minutes before finally leaving. The eviction was finalized 2 weeks later. Ryan, Lisa, and Oliver moved into a small apartment across town. 2 bedrooms, thin walls, in a neighborhood that was safe, but a far cry from Maple Street. Lisa filed for separation. The papers cited irreconcilable differences and requested full custody of Oliver pending Ryan's financial stabilization. Oliver stopped going to school for 3 days. When he finally went back, he was quiet, withdrawn. Lisa got him into therapy with a child psychologist who specialized in family trauma. I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt relief. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't wondering what Ryan wanted, what he needed, what I was supposed to fix next. I wasn't scanning every conversation for hidden agendas, every request for ulterior motives. I was free. But I wasn't done. Because Ryan, even stripped of everything, tried one last play. Ryan tried one last play. He hired a lawyer, a cheap one, the only kind he could afford now, a man named Dennis Porter, who worked out of a strip mall office and had a website that looked like it was designed in 1999. But Porter was hungry, and hungry lawyers sometimes try creative arguments. They filed a motion claiming I'd coerced him, that I'd manipulated him when he was vulnerable, that my actions constituted elder financial abuse in reverse, a son trying to help his declining father, only to be sabotaged by a vindictive parent who couldn't accept his own limitations. The argument was absurd, but it was also dangerous. Because if a judge believed him, if Ryan could convince anyone that I was the aggressor here, everything I'd built would fall apart. The eviction could be reversed. The fraud could be reframed as a misunderstanding. My actions could be painted as elder abuse, and suddenly, I'd be the villain. The hearing was scheduled for a Friday in late November. Cold morning, frost on the courthouse steps. I arrived early with Martin Shepard, who'd been my lawyer through all of this. A man who'd handled estate law for 40 years and had zero patience for nonsense. "They have no case," Martin said as we waited in the hallway. "Ryan's lawyer is throwing mud and hoping something sticks. Judge Morris is smart, she'll see through it." "What if something does stick?" "It won't. We have documentation for everything. The forged signature, the fraudulent evaluation, the financial records. Will, you're the victim here. The judge will see that." I wasn't so sure. I'd learned over the past 2 months that facts didn't always matter as much as narratives. People believed what they wanted to believe. And Ryan was good at making people want to believe him. He always had been. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, fluorescent lit, the kind of room where lives got decided in 45-minute increments. Ryan sat at the defendant's table with his lawyer, a nervous young man who kept adjusting his tie and shuffling papers. Ryan didn't look at me when I walked in. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by khakis and a button-down that didn't quite fit right. His hair needed cutting. His hands shook slightly when he picked up his water glass. Part of me felt satisfaction. Part of me felt something else, something I didn't want to examine too closely. The judge was a woman in her 50s, Judge Patricia Morris, with iron-gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She had a reputation for being fair but impatient. She didn't tolerate time wasting. "This is a motion for preliminary injunction," she said, reading from the file. "Mr. Ryan Hart is requesting that the court freeze his father's assets pending an investigation into alleged financial manipulation and elder abuse. Is that correct?" Ryan's lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We believe Dr. William Hart used his position of trust and his son's temporary financial difficulties to coerce control of family assets. We believe Dr. Hart took advantage of his son's good faith attempts to provide care and twisted them into a narrative of fraud." "And you have evidence of this coercion?" "We have testimony from Mr. Hart and his wife regarding Dr. Hart's behavior over the past several months. We have evidence that Dr. Hart deliberately concealed his true mental state during medical evaluations. We have documentation showing that Dr. Hart contacted his son's business associates and creditors with the specific intent of destroying his son's livelihood." "Objection," Martin said, standing. "Testimony is not evidence. Hearsay is not evidence. And contacting creditors with accurate information about financial fraud is not coercion. It's called telling the truth. We have documentary proof that Mr. Ryan Hart attempted to defraud his father through forged signatures and a fraudulent psychiatric evaluation. Everything Dr. Hart did was in self-defense." Judge Morris held up her hand. "I'll hear from both sides." Mr. Ryan Hart approached the witness stand. Ryan was sworn in. His hand shook on the Bible. He looked at me once, then looked away. His lawyer asked him questions designed to paint me as vindictive, calculating, cruel. Ryan played his part well. His voice trembled at the right moments. He paused, as if overcome with emotion. He talked about how I'd changed after the stroke. "My father used to be warm," Ryan said. "Caring. After the stroke, he became paranoid. He started accusing me of things. He'd forget conversations we'd had, and then blame me for lying. I was worried about him. I loved him. I just wanted to help." "And what did you do to help?" "I arranged for a psychiatric evaluation. I thought if we could understand what was happening, we could get him proper care. I never wanted to hurt him. He's my father. I love him." "Did you forge his signature on a power of attorney document?" Ryan hesitated, looked down at his hands. There was a document, but I thought he'd signed it. He'd agreed to it. We'd talked about it. I thought I was following through on what he wanted. It was a smooth lie, practiced, almost believable." "And the evaluation?" "Dr. Moss was qualified. He did a standard assessment. My father failed. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was reality. I had to accept that my father was declining." "Did you plan to sell his house?" "Only as a last resort. To pay for his care. To make sure he'd be comfortable. I would have made sure he always had a place to live." Judge Morris was making notes. I couldn't read her expression. When it was Martin's turn to cross-examine, he didn't waste time. "Mr. Hart, did you or did you not forge your father's signature on a power of attorney document?" Ryan hesitated. The situation was complicated. Yes or no? I thought I had his permission. Yes or no, Mr. Hart? Did you create a signature on a document without your father physically signing it himself? Ryan's jaw tightened. Yes, but... Did you arrange for a psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Leonard Moss, a physician who is currently under investigation by the State Medical Board for providing fraudulent competency evaluations? I didn't know about the investigation. Did you arrange the evaluation? Yes. And did you discuss with Dr. Moss what outcome you hoped for? We talked about my concerns. Did you tell Dr. Moss that you needed your father declared incompetent? Silence. Ryan's face flushed. Answer the question, Mr. Hart. I told him I was worried my father couldn't manage his affairs. And Dr. Moss understood that you needed a specific outcome for financial reasons. I don't know what he understood. Mr. Hart, do you owe money to Frank Gallo? Ryan's lawyer objected. Relevance, Your Honor. Goes to motive, Martin said. Mr. Ryan Hart's financial desperation is directly relevant to why he attempted to seize his father's assets. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. Hart. Ryan's voice was barely audible. Yes. How much? $340,000. And when did you plan to use your father's assets to pay that debt? I wasn't. Mr. Hart, we have documentation. Your emails to Mitchell Crane discussing asset liquidation timeline. Your notes about the value of your father's house. Your timeline that put the house sale 3 weeks after taking control of your father's finances. Did you plan to use your father's money to pay your debt? I plan to use family resources to stabilize family finances. By selling your father's house without his knowledge or consent. By making difficult decisions that he couldn't make for himself. Except he wasn't incompetent. Was he, Mr. Hart? Silence. Was your father actually incompetent? The evaluation said, I'm not asking about the evaluation. I'm asking you. Did you genuinely believe your father was incompetent? Or did you know he was fine and you just needed a way to access his money? Ryan's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought he might actually tell the truth, but then he pulled himself together. I believed he was declining. I was trying to help. By forging documents, by arranging fraudulent evaluations, by planning to sell his home. I was trying to save my family. By destroying your father. Objection! Ryan's lawyer was on his feet. Withdrawn, Martin said. No further questions. Judge Morris removed her glasses. I've heard enough. Mr. Ryan Hart, I'm going to be very clear with you. This court sees dozens of elder financial abuse cases every year. Family members trying to seize control of aging parents' assets. And in every single case, they claim they were trying to help. They claim the parent was confused, declining, unable to manage their own affairs. And in nearly every case, they're lying. Ryan opened his mouth. Judge Morris held up her hand. Dr. William Hart has provided extensive documentation proving that he is mentally competent. He has provided expert analysis proving that you forged his signature. He has provided evidence that you colluded with a physician to produce a fraudulent evaluation. He has proven, beyond any shadow of doubt, that you attempted to commit fraud. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Motion denied. Not only is this motion denied, but I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal prosecution. Mr. Ryan Hart, you're lucky your father isn't pressing charges. Because if he did, you'd be looking at jail time. This case is dismissed, and if you waste this court's time again with frivolous motions, I'll hold you in contempt. Do you understand? Ryan sat there, frozen. His lawyer whispered something to him. He didn't respond. Judge Morris slammed her gavel. I stood up and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't wait to see Ryan's face. In the hallway, Martin caught up with me. That went well. Yes. Will, you won. It's over. Not yet, I said. Because I had one more piece to put in place. I waited until December. I wanted Ryan to think it was over. I wanted him to believe that the court hearing was the end, that we'd go our separate ways and never speak again. I wanted him to think he could rebuild his life, find new investors, start over. I wanted him relaxed, because I had one more piece to put in place. During my investigation into Ryan's finances, I'd found something interesting. A property deal from 3 years ago. Ryan had purchased a commercial building with a group of investors, then sold it 8 months later for what appeared to be a substantial profit. Everyone was happy. The investors got their money back plus returns. Ryan got paid his fees. The building changed hands cleanly. Except the profit wasn't real. Ryan had used a shell company, registered in Delaware, hidden behind layers of paperwork, to artificially inflate the sale price. The building was actually sold at a loss to a legitimate buyer, but on paper, it looked like Ryan had sold it to the shell company for a huge profit. The shell company then sold it to the actual buyer, absorbing the loss. The investors thought they'd made money. They withdrew their funds plus returns. They never knew that Ryan had used new investor money to pay old investor returns, a classic Ponzi scheme structure, just sophisticated enough to avoid immediate detection. It was fraud. Clean, simple, prosecutable fraud. And I had all the documentation. I'd been saving it, holding it back. Because criminal charges weren't something I wanted hanging over my family unless absolutely necessary. Because despite everything, Ryan was still my son. Some part of me, some small, stubborn part, had hoped it wouldn't come to this. But Ryan had pushed me. He'd tried to take everything, and when that failed, he'd tried to destroy my reputation in court. He'd looked me in the eye and lied, claiming he'd been trying to help me, claiming I was the villain. So now he'd get what he deserved. I called Jessica Reeves, the reporter, one more time. I have another story for you. I'm listening. I sent her everything, the shell company registration, the inflated sale documents, the falsified investor statements, the email trail showing Ryan knew exactly what he was doing. She verified it all, contacted the investors, people who thought they'd made clean money but were actually victims of fraud, got their statements, talked to forensic accountants who confirmed the scheme. The story ran on December 15th. Local real estate developer under investigation for investment fraud. This time, Ryan's name was all over it, not hidden, not protected, right there in the headline and the first paragraph. Ryan Hart, 36 of Westchester, is under investigation by the district attorney's office for allegedly defrauding investors through a complex shell company scheme. The article was thorough. It detailed the commercial property deal, the shell company, the falsified documents. It quoted investors who felt betrayed. It included statements from forensic accountants explaining how the scheme worked. And it mentioned me. The investigation began after Hart's father, Dr. William Hart, a retired radiology physician, provided documentation to authorities showing a pattern of financial fraud. Dr. Hart had previously been the target of an alleged elder abuse scheme by his son, which was dismissed in court last month. The district attorney's office opened an investigation the next day. The article had made it impossible for them to ignore. The fraud was too clear, too documented, too public. Federal investigators got involved a week later because the shell company crossed state lines. Ryan's lawyer, his new lawyer, a better one he'd somehow scrounged up money for, called me. Dr. Hart, please. You have to understand, if this goes forward, Ryan could go to prison. Real prison. Years. Please, talk to the DA. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you don't want to press this. I already talked to the DA. I gave them everything they needed. He's your son. He stopped being my son when he forged my signature. Dr. Hart, tell Ryan to take whatever deal they offer him. It's the best he's going to get. I hung up. 2 days before Christmas, Ryan showed up at my house one last time. I saw him through the window, standing on the sidewalk, staring at the house. My house. The real house. The main house. The one on Maple Street. The one he'd grown up in. The one where Claire had taught him to cook in that kitchen. The one where we'd celebrated every holiday and birthday for 36 years. The one he'd tried to take from me. He didn't come to the door. Just stood there for maybe 5 minutes, his hands in his pockets, his breath fogging in the cold air. He looked at the Christmas lights I'd put up. Simple white ones, the same ones Claire and I always used. He looked at the wreath on the door. He looked at the windows where, once upon a time, He'd lived and been loved and been safe. Then he got back in his car, an old Honda now, the Lexus long gone, and left. I never saw him again. The first week of January, everything came together. The DA formally charged Ryan with wire fraud and filing false documents. Federal charges were pending. Ryan's new lawyer negotiated a plea deal, 3 years probation, restitution to the defrauded investors totaling $280,000, a permanent bar from working in real estate or financial services, and 200 hours of community service. Ryan took the deal. The alternative was trial, and his lawyer had made it clear that going to trial would mean prison time. The evidence was overwhelming. I'd made sure of that. Lisa finalized the separation in early February. The papers cited irreconcilable differences and requested full custody of Oliver. Ryan didn't contest it. He couldn't afford to. Lisa and Oliver moved to Indianapolis to live with her parents. She called me once to tell me Oliver asked about me, wanted to know if he could visit. "Anytime," I said. "He's always welcome. I'll buy the plane ticket." I don't know if that's a good idea, given everything. Oliver didn't do anything wrong. None of this is his fault. Neither did you, according to everyone. But Will, what you did to Ryan. He tried to erase me. I refused to let him destroy mine. If that makes me the villain in your story, I can live with that. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. I went back to work part-time at the hospital, consulting on difficult cases. Andrew Chen welcomed me back with a smile. "We missed you, Will." Life settled into a new rhythm, quiet, peaceful, mine. But there was one last thing I needed to do. Ryan's last address was a studio apartment downtown. I drove there on a cold afternoon in late January, parked across the street, and waited. He came out at 4:30 carrying groceries. He looked older, thinner. He'd aged 5 years in 5 months. I got out of the car. He saw me, stopped. We looked at each other across the street, 2 men who used to be father and son. I crossed the street. "What do you want?" he asked. His voice was flat, empty. I pulled an envelope from my pocket. "Open it." Inside was the forged power of attorney. "This is the original," I said. "I wanted you to know that I still have this. And if you ever try to contact me again, if you ever try to come back into my life or manipulate Oliver, I will make sure every person you've ever known sees this document. I already lost everything. No, Ryan, you still have your life. You still have your freedom. I'm letting you keep those things. But you don't get me. You don't get to be my son anymore. You can't just... I already did. The day you decided I was a resource instead of a person. That was the day you stopped being my son." Ryan's face twisted. "So that's it? You win?" "I'm not the hero, Ryan. I'm just the man who refused to be erased." I turned to leave. "Dad." I looked back. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was wrong. I was desperate and stupid and wrong. I know I can't fix it, but I need you to know that I'm sorry." I stood there, looking at my son, and felt absolutely nothing. "I know," I said. I gave him back the envelope. Let him keep that reminder. I turned around and walked away. "That's it? You're just leaving?" I got in my car. "Dad, please." I started the engine. "You have to give me something. Some hope, some anything." I rolled down the window one last time. "You disappeared from my life forever," I said. "That's all the hope you get." I drove away and never looked back, because I was a father for too long. Now, I'm just a consequence.